Today, we're diving into the classic world of the Sega Genesis, a console that defined the 16-bit era and gave us some of the most iconic games in video game history. From side-scrolling beat-em-ups to action-packed platformers and unforgettable RPGs, the Genesis had something for everyone. In this video, we'll be ranking some of the best titles ever released for the system, whether you're a longtime fan or a newcomer discovering these classics for the first time. We'll break down what made each game so special, analyze the gameplay, share some fun trivia, and of course, celebrate why these titles are still remembered fondly by gamers today. So, let's take a trip down memory lane with some of the greatest games the Sega Genesis has to offer. Kicking off the list is Streets of Rage, one of the most iconic beat-em-ups of its time. Released in 1991, it immediately became a classic for its tight controls, memorable soundtrack, and cooperative multiplayer. The story is simple but effective, with players controlling a group of vigilantes trying to take down a corrupt crime syndicate led by Mr. X. The gameplay itself is a mix of punching, kicking, and throwing enemies. But what set it apart was its smooth controls and strategic combat. It wasn't just about mindlessly beating enemies, it was about using the environment and your limited moveset to your advantage. Add in some great character design and a killer soundtrack by Yuzo Koshiro, and it's clear why Streets of Rage still holds up today. Streets of Rage was one of the first beat-em-ups to feature real-time multiplayer, allowing for two-player co-op. The game's influence can still be felt in modern beat-em-ups, with sequels like Streets of Rage 4 proving its enduring legacy. Sonic the Hedgehog became Sega's mascot and revolutionized platforming with its fast-paced, momentum-driven gameplay. Released in 1991, it was built to showcase the power of the Genesis hardware, introducing a new level of speed and fluidity to the 2D platforming genre. As Sonic, you blast through loop-de-loops, collect rings, and take on the nefarious Dr. Robotnik. The game's standout feature is its speed. Unlike many other platformers of the time, Sonic didn't require precision jumping but focused more on building momentum and letting you fly through levels. This design gave players an adrenaline rush, making it feel like they were part of something revolutionary in gaming. Sonic's spin dash move wasn't introduced until the sequel, but the original game was already a hit thanks to its vibrant visuals and incredible music. Its success would pave the way for an entire franchise. In 1990, Sega released Alien Storm, a side-scrolling beat-em-up with a sci-fi theme that has since become a cult classic. Players take on the roles of a diverse team, including a cyborg, a martial artist, and a scientist, as they battle an alien invasion. The game combines traditional beat-em-up gameplay with elements of light gun shooting. There are sections where you switch to a first-person perspective to shoot at alien enemies. It's this hybrid gameplay that helps Alien Storm stand out in the genre, making it both engaging and fun to play. The game's visual design draws inspiration from both Aliens and the Terminator, creating a unique atmosphere that still resonates with fans of retro shooters. SWAT. City Under Siege takes players into a futuristic world where you play as a police officer tasked with taking down rogue criminals using an assortment of high-tech weapons. The game is a side-scrolling action platformer with a heavy emphasis on combat and power-ups. What sets SWAT apart is its sense of progression. You start off as a regular cop but gradually gain upgrades, turning into a heavily armed cyborg. This transformation adds a sense of power and achievement as you work your way through the levels. The game's futuristic setting and intense action still make it a fun ride today. SWAT originally began as a more straightforward side-scrolling beat-em-up, but the addition of platforming and upgrade systems gave it a unique twist. Known for its punishing difficulty, Ghouls and Ghosts is a challenging action platformer that takes players through haunted castles and creepy graveyards. You control Sir Arthur, a knight on a quest to rescue Princess Prin Prin, who has been kidnapped by demons. The game is a test of patience, requiring players to memorize enemy patterns and deal with tough platforming sections. While its difficulty might be frustrating for some, the game's tight controls, incredible atmosphere, and creative enemy design make it a standout in the action platformer genre. Ghouls and Ghosts is the sequel to the arcade hit Ghosts and Goblins, and was one of the first games to feature the now iconic mechanic of losing armor when hit, adding an extra layer of challenge. Castle of Illusion, starring Mickey Mouse, is a classic platformer released for the Sega Genesis in 1990, developed by Sega. It follows Mickey Mouse on a quest to rescue Minnie from the evil witch Mizrabel, who has kidnapped her and taken her to the Castle of Illusion. To save her, Mickey must collect 7 rainbow gems hidden throughout the castle's magical worlds. The game is praised for its tight controls and creative level design. Mickey can jump on enemies to defeat them or throw objects, such as apples or marbles. Each level has a unique theme, ranging from enchanted forests to toy-filled landscapes, providing a visually diverse and engaging experience. The boss fights are also well designed, with Ms. Rabel's minions offering unique challenges that require pattern recognition and strategy to defeat. Graphically, Castle of Illusion showcases detailed sprites and colorful backgrounds, making it one of the best-looking early Genesis games. The soundtrack is equally impressive, with whimsical melodies that enhance the game's fairy tale atmosphere. The game was a major success and helped establish the Sega Genesis as a strong competitor to Nintendo. It remains one of the most beloved Disney games of all time and a must-play for retro platformer fans. Phantasy Star 2 is a standout RPG that helped solidify the Genesis as a viable platform for role-playing games. Set in a futuristic world, the game follows Rolf, a young man trying to uncover the mystery behind a computer system's malfunction and the resulting chaos. The game introduced players to turn-based combat, exploration, and deep storytelling, elements that would become staples in RPGs for years to come. The character-driven plot and philosophical themes about the role of technology in society were ahead of its time. Though the battle system and graphics might feel a bit dated now, Phantasy Star 2 is still remembered for its complex narrative and influential gameplay. Phantasy Star 2's soundtrack, composed by Tokuhiko Uwabo, is widely regarded as one of the best on the Genesis, with its electronic beats and memorable tunes setting the tone for the game's dystopian world. Rocket Knight Adventures is a classic action platformer released for the Sega Genesis in 1993, developed by Konami. The game introduces players to Sparkster, a rocket-powered opossum who is tasked with rescuing the kingdom of Zebulos from the evil empire. The gameplay is a unique blend of fast-paced platforming, puzzle-solving, and intense combat, with Sparkster using his rocket pack to fly, attack, and navigate various levels. What sets Rocket Knight Adventures apart from other platformers of its time is its fluid and dynamic mechanics. Sparkster can zip through levels using his jet-powered rocket pack, allowing for both horizontal and vertical movement. The game features a wide variety of environments, including castles, forests, and airships, each with its own set of enemies, traps, and challenges. Castlevania Bloodlines is one of the more unique entries in the Castlevania series, as it was one of the few titles not released on Nintendo systems. It's often considered one of the best action platformers on the Genesis, mixing gothic horror with tight, precise gameplay. The game introduced 2 playable characters, John Morris, armed with a whip, and Eric Lacard, who wields a spear. Each character had distinct abilities, offering players a reason to revisit the game multiple times. The level design is great, with a variety of environments, including castles, abandoned villages, and a boat on the high seas. With atmospheric music and visuals that set the tone for its dark world, Bloodlines brought everything fans loved about Castlevania to Sega's 16-bit console. It also boasted some of the most challenging gameplay in the franchise, especially during the later stages. The game's storyline is connected to the main Castlevania timeline, as it focuses on the descendants of the Belmont family and their quest to stop Dracula's resurrection. Rolling Thunder 2 is a side-scrolling shooter that sets itself apart with its emphasis on strategic movement and cover. Unlike most run-and-gun games of the era, Rolling Thunder 2 incorporates elements of stealth, requiring you to avoid enemy detection while taking out threats from behind cover. The game's 2-player cooperative mode was a major selling point, allowing players to work together to clear stages while dodging enemy fire. The varied level design, from city streets to high-tech military bases, keeps things fresh and exciting. Rolling Thunder 2 is a follow-up to the arcade hit Rolling Thunder, but it improves upon the formula by adding more weapons, enemy types, and smoother controls. This iteration's innovation in action stealth gameplay earned it praise for its depth. Ghostbusters for the Sega Genesis, released in 1990 and developed by Sega, is an action platformer based on the famous movie franchise. Unlike other Ghostbusters games of the era, this version features a mix of side-scrolling gameplay and RPG-like elements, allowing players to upgrade their equipment and choose different missions. Players control one of 3 Ghostbusters, Peter, Ray, or Egon as they investigate paranormal activity across various haunted locations. The game features several levels, each with unique ghost enemies, traps, and platforming challenges. Players use their proton packs to weaken ghosts and then deploy a ghost trap to capture them, staying true to the movie's spirit. One of the game's standout features is the shop system, where players can spend money earned from capturing ghosts to buy better weapons, traps, and health items. This adds a layer of strategy, as preparation is key to surviving tougher missions. The game culminates in a showdown with the evil demon Gozer, providing a satisfying climax. With its detailed sprite work, eerie yet catchy soundtrack, and engaging gameplay, Ghostbusters for the Genesis remains a fan favorite. It's often regarded as one of the best adaptations of the franchise, offering a unique and enjoyable take on ghost hunting action. Quackshot, starring Donald Duck, is a beloved action platformer released for the Sega Genesis in 1991, developed by Sega. The game follows Donald Duck on an Indiana Jones-style adventure across various locations, including Duckburg, Mexico, Egypt, and Transylvania, as he searches for the legendary treasure of King Garuzia. One of the standout features of Quackshot is its unique gameplay mechanics. Instead of traditional weapons, Donald wields a plunger gun, which he uses to stun enemies and create temporary platforms. As the game progresses, he acquires upgrades like bubblegum to dissolve obstacles and popcorn to defeat tougher foes. The game also incorporates light puzzle solving, as certain areas require items from different locations to progress, adding a Metroidvania-like element to its design. Visually, Quackshot boasts colorful, well-animated sprites that capture the charm of Disney's classic characters. The soundtrack is lively and fits the adventurous tone of the game. While not as fast-paced as some other Genesis platformers, Quackshot is praised for its engaging level design, creative mechanics, and overall fun factor. It remains a favorite among retro gamers and Disney fans, standing out as one of the best licensed games on the Sega Genesis. Released in 1991, Wonder Boy in Monster World stands out as a colorful action RPG with platforming elements. As the hero Cheyenne, you embark on a quest to rescue the inhabitants of Monster World. What makes the game unique is its blend of action, exploration, and RPG elements, giving it a bit of a hybrid feel that would influence later action RPGs. The game's mechanics allow you to upgrade weapons, armor, and even your abilities, offering a sense of progression. The controls are tight, making platforming sections enjoyable rather than frustrating. The vibrant, whimsical world is brought to life with pixel-perfect graphics, making it a joy to look at as well as play. Wonder Boy in Monster World is actually part of the Wonder Boy franchise, though it deviates from previous games by introducing RPG mechanics, making it a bit of a genre blender. Gunstar Heroes is one of the most beloved action games on the Genesis. Developed by Treasure, it's a fast-paced run-and-gun platformer, where you battle through levels filled with enemies, traps, and bosses. The game's defining feature is its co-op gameplay, allowing two players to team up and take on waves of enemies. The game is known for its intense action, large boss fights, and creative level design. The ability to combine different weapons into new configurations adds a layer of strategy, making each playthrough feel unique. Its colorful graphics, over-the-top action, and memorable soundtrack make it a standout title in the Genesis library. Gunstar Heroes was one of the first games to showcase Treasure's signature chaotic and unpredictable gameplay style, which would later influence other classics like Ikaruga and Radiant Silvergun. Released in 1995, Comic Zone is a stylish, action-packed side-scroller that has become a cult favorite over the years. What makes this game stand out is its comic book-style presentation. As Sketch Turner, an artist trapped in his own comic book, you fight your way through panels filled with enemies and hazards. The gameplay is a straightforward beat-em-up, but the visual design and comic book aesthetic elevate it. The level transitions, where you literally jump from one comic panel to the next, make for a unique experience. The game's quirky story, tight controls, and unique style made it stand out in the crowded Genesis library. The game's combination of traditional beat-em-up mechanics and comic book art was ahead of its time, influencing later games with similar visual styles like Beautiful Joe. Revenge of Shinobi was a defining moment for action games on the Genesis. In this side-scrolling ninja adventure, you play as Joe Musashi, seeking vengeance for the death of his master. The game is full of intense, fast-paced action, with impressive boss fights and well-designed stages. The gameplay blends platforming, combat, and stealth, allowing players to sneak past enemies or engage them head-on. The graphics and animations were cutting-edge for their time, and the soundtrack, composed by Yuzo Koshiro, has become iconic in its own right. With memorable power-ups and hidden techniques, Revenge of Shinobi remains one of the best action games on the Genesis. The game originally included cameos of popular superheroes, including Spider-Man and Batman, though these characters were removed due to licensing issues before the game's release. The sequel to the original Streets of Rage 2, is widely considered one of the best beat-em-ups ever made. It refines everything that made the first game great, with smoother controls, more characters, and a deeper combat system. The game introduces 4 playable characters, each with their own unique moves, and a killer soundtrack by Yuzo Koshiro. Streets of Rage 2 has an aggressive, fast-paced combat system that rewards both individual skill and cooperation in its 2-player mode. The game's ability to balance difficulty with accessibility makes it timeless, and its legacy is evident in modern beat-em-ups that strive to replicate its success. Streets of Rage 2 was one of the first games to feature detailed pre-rendered sprites, which gave the characters a more lifelike appearance compared to other beat-em-ups of the time. Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the pinnacle of Sonic platforming. It refines everything that made its predecessors great, while introducing new gameplay elements like the ability to combine Sonic and Tails into a new super-powered form. Sonic 3 is widely regarded as the best Sonic game ever made, thanks to its fantastic level design, smooth controls, and the introduction of the shield power-ups. The game has a level of polish that was unmatched for its time. With its 2-player mode and stunning graphics, Sonic 3 set the bar for platformers, and its legacy can still be seen in modern games today. Sonic 3 was originally supposed to be released as a single game with Sonic and Knuckles, but due to time constraints, the 2 games were split into separate releases. And there you have it, our ranking of some of the best retro Sega Genesis games. From the fast-paced thrills of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 to the challenging platforming of Ghouls and Ghosts, these titles represent the golden age of 16-bit gaming. Each game on this list left a lasting impact on the industry, with gameplay innovations, unforgettable soundtracks, and unforgettable moments that continue to resonate with fans old and new. Whether you're reliving these classics or experiencing them for the first time, there's no denying the influence these games had on shaping the world of video gaming. Sega's Genesis may have been discontinued, but its legacy lives on through its amazing library of titles. So, what's your favorite Genesis game? Let us know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more retro gaming content. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep gaming.